America has a history that we can't change. America's history is what it is. But we're
Mm-hmm.
in a time now where, like we said, we live here, we
Mm-hmm.
pay taxes here, we own property here. We ain't going nowhere. This is our country too.
End up taking them off in a little bit.
Oh man, welcome back to the Crucial Combo podcast. Bright lights.
See the eyeballs?
I see the double eyeballs. Yeah. Alien, you are tapped in with your boy Kojo Afriye and my wife Faith Afriye
Hi,
in the
everybody.
building. Crucial Combo podcast. Welcome back. If you tapped in, I appreciate all the new subscribers. We appreciate all the comments, negative and positive, and all in between.
There are no negative comments. It's only
It's all love.
it's all love,
It's all
as far
love.
as I see it.
Gia.
Yeah.
Oh man, so much going on. We love to talk about what's going on in the world. Now, yesterday, our president gave a speech, and there were a lot of different reactions. What do you think about that?
The speech to Congress in front of
Yeah,
Congress.
overall, what did you think about the speech?
I thought it was, I don't know, I thought it was great. Basically repeating everything that he's been saying prior to getting into being a president, and now during his presidency still repeating pretty much the same things about being transparent, getting rid of waste, fraud and abuse when it comes to taxpayer money, and repeated a lot of what I've already heard and what I've already expected, and then had some shout outs to a few people
Yeah.
that I thought was very moving. I actually found myself crying. Okay, not
No,
crying,
no,
not
you know
crying
it's not.
hard. I mean, just like shedding a tear for the 13-year-old boy who wanted to be a policeman, and he gave him an honorary. What was it? An
Yeah, he gave him
honorary.
an honorary, I guess, an honorary induction to the Secret Service. That's basically what it
Love
was.
that.
So
Love that. And then for the mother whose 12-year-old daughter passed away from a violent
I
criminal
think she was strangled. She was
illegal
strangled.
immigrant.
She was dragged under a bridge and strangled. I believe.
Yeah,
It,
yes.
it was it's nasty
They
work.
did some kind of memorial for her, memorial for her in like a park because she really enjoyed outdoors and wildlife.
Now I thought the park wasn't for Lake and Riley. Was it the park for Lake and Riley, or I
Ooh.
could be wrong,
I
but I
thought it was
believe
for
that
the 12-year-old girl because she really liked being in the outdoors and she really liked parks. And I think they made a memorial for her in either one of the parks, or
it could have been that. Yeah,
everything was like those stories were very, very moving, very touching, very real.
yeah.
Um, and so I loved everything that he had to say last night. I
Hmm.
was a little disappointed.
Guess who didn't like it though?
Yeah,
Who didn't like
I
it?
just didn't understand the dislike with something that is what you called, it's not Democratic, it's not Republican,
Nonpartisan.
nonpartisan. Things
Yeah.
that were nonpartisan, they still sitting there like,
Well,
I
you
ain't
know
gonna do
what?
nothing, I ain't gonna move. I'm just gonna hold up this sign that says liar.
To kick it off, it was your boy. It was your boy from Texas, Al Green, and we're not talking about love and happiness, Al Green, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously he's
You
the
ain't
he's, he's
gotta
the
you ain't gotta
man.
look at me like, you get it? You get it?
I
I
love
got it.
a little attempt at a little joke. We ain't talking about love and happiness. Make it do right. So your boy Al Green, he decided to kick something off early in the game. You guys already saw it. I'm gonna play a little clip of it, and then he also has his reasoning as to why he say he was. So if you didn't watch it, if you were under a rock yesterday, This is what happened
Or if you were
yesterday.
sleeping like me.
Or if you were sleeping. Now this
'Cause
happened
I
in the
I caught it on the next day,
yeah.
got caught up. So if you were sleeping like me, here we go.
Here we go. This happened like early in the game. I mean, this was like, I don't know, 2 minutes into the speech.
Small business optimism saw its single largest 1 month gain ever recorded, a 41-point jump.
Say that.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum
This
in the
is right
House
off the
and to
bat.
cease any further disruptions. That's your warning.
Who's he popping at?
Members are
Trump
engaging
hasn't
in
even
willful
said
and
anything
continuing
yet.
breach of
What is he
decorum, and the
talking
I want to
chair
about?
play
is
the clip
prepared to
of what he
direct the
said.
I
Sergeant at
want to know
Arms
what
to
he said.
restore order to the joint session. Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant at Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Remind me later to say something about the women in pink.
Woman in pink. Okay, woman in
Women
pink.
in pink.
Okay, woman in pink. Okay, will do. So they removed your boy Al. So that was kind of like early in the game. So obviously that happened, and then from there. So let's talk about why he said he did all that. So I want to play this real quick. So this is the explanation of what he said today as to why he would do it or why he did it and why he would do it again. This is Rep Al
Hmm.
Green. So let's play that real quick and we'll go into what he had to say. So
The president indicated that he had a mandate. I said to the president, you do not have a mandate to cut Medicaid. I have constituents who need Medicaid. They will suffer and some will die if they don't get Medicaid. I heard the speaker when he said that I should cease. I did not, and I did not with intentionality. It was not done out of a burst of emotion. I was emotional about it, but I did it with intentionality. I think
sounds like a
that on
emotion
some
to me.
Sounds like it.
questions of conscience, you have to be willing to suffer the consequences. And I have said I will. I will suffer whatever the consequences are, because I don't believe that in the richest country in the world, people should be without good health care.
Listen.
So let me just stop it there. So this is what he said. This is why Al Green said he did what he did, because he said that they don't have a mandate to cut Medicare.
But that's not what he's doing.
As of right now, there is no cut to Medicare.
There is no cut to Medicare. There is no cut to Medicaid. There is no cut to Social Security. What is being done?
Let's stay on Medicaid specifically.
Yeah.
So far,
I mean, this goes to all of them. This goes to all of them.
but let's stick to his gripe.
Okay, so his
Just
gripe with
stick to Medicaid.
Medicaid.
What do you know about Medicaid so far? Because I haven't seen any cut to Medicaid. What do you?
They're not cutting Medicaid, but what they're doing is getting rid of all of the false. Okay, so there are a lot of individuals apparently who are over 100 and say 14 years old, maybe some people that are 200 and something, maybe some people who are 300 and some odd years old who's receiving, I think it is Medicaid or
You talking about Social Security?
oh, that's Social Security.
Me-
Okay,
um, well, we can talk.
I'm assuming that it's the same thing with Medicaid. They're just cutting all the fraud and abuse from it.
Yes, that you're
That's
absolutely
pretty
right.
much it. They're not getting rid of anybody's Medicaid who is receiving the services legally or rightly so. Um, but they're just getting rid of fraud and abuse.
Well, exactly. And with Medicaid, from what I understand, they haven't actually cut Medicaid, but they were focused on. So Medicaid, I was looking this up. Medicaid has a $1.7 trillion budget. So there is some suspicion that there is some fraud in there, and most of the fraud is improper payments due to documentation issues. Now,
Mhm.
you know about that because as an OT, you know that
Oh,
um,
documentation.
documentation is a big deal.
Oh, yes. Let me speak on that.
Please.
As a therapist, like if our documentation isn't right, meaning we have to abide by Medicare guidelines, right? So with I think any federally funded program, there are guidelines, and if you don't abide by the guidelines as far as documentation or what should be submitted, then you either don't qualify for it, or as a therapist, we don't get reimbursed for it. So yeah, there's that. So if there's fraud and abuse there,
Which
and
there's room for it to happen,
which
right?
is definitely room for it, and the documentation isn't what it should be, then why should you shell out the money?
Right. And that's important to talk about because I think that if Al Green is standing up and obviously he's saying that Medicare is being cut or he thinks it's being cut, um and the indication is, oh, there's a lot of my constituents will not be covered and people are going to die. I think that this has been healthcare has been an issue long before Donald Trump, right? It's
Mhm.
been an issue. So of course we can make the argument about this country is the most wealthiest country and it should be universal healthcare. That's an argument that's long before Trump. Has got not a lot to do with Trump. So
Mhm.
the healthcare system isn't perfect. I think we all could agree on that.
Mhm.
But to get up there, my thing is that to get up there and do all that early in the game was it looked really petty, immature. It actually looked like something you would have saw in Dalton. You know what I'm saying? As of recently, with Tiffany Henyard, it would look like one of those things
Mhm.
because you know, and I'm not likening them, the Democrats, to the residents of Dalton because I'm not doing that because they had a reason to get up and go off. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But the
To get
Democrats
up
did,
in arms so early,
yeah, they
so
didn't have a
early.
reason
He
to do
hasn't
that.
even Trump hasn't even said anything. He hadn't even really said too much before Al Green just went off.
Got up there and turned up, and then they got him up out of here. But the thing about it is, it's become a spectacle. So the Democratic Party, for me, last night was embarrassing, and there was look, at the end of the day, they don't have to agree with everything Donald Trump does, but I think it was embarrassing for America how they acted. Um, and we you just talked about the young man, the young boy, 13 years old.
Mhm.
Now I'm gonna play a little clip of him because he was interviewed on Fox earlier, him and his dad. So we're talking about a 13-year-old boy who survived brain cancer. I believe he was supposed to be. He was his doctor didn't give him. I think they gave him till 6 or 7 to live, and he's lived to 13.
Yeah.
So he always wanted to be a police officer, and he. I guess when they found out he had cancer, he had went around the country. I guess, and I know he was an honorary police officer of in Houston, and I believe some other cities gave him honorary status as police officer because he wanted to do that.
Mhm.
So last night, Trump says, "Okay, I'm gonna honorarily induct you into the Secret Service."
I'm gonna top that. I'm gonna top that. Trump
Yeah,
said, "I'm gonna give you honorary
honorary status of a
status."
Secret
Yes,
Service agent, and
Secret
I didn't
Service.
cry, but I didn't
Oh, I
cry,
did.
but
I shedded a tear. I
you
was
know
just
what?
like,
It's
wow,
it struck me,
that's just beautiful.
and you
I
know why it
mean,
struck me because
it's
it's
like the make a wish, he wanted to be a police officer, and you're fulfilling his dream, his desire to serve,
yeah.
So that's
You can't be
beautiful.
mad at that.
So
You
cute.
can't be mad at that, and
Nah,
then
you can't be mad at that.
you know, for me, I didn't see the Democrats clap for it. Most of the time, they were on their phones. They had their bingo cards up or the bingo paddles.
At first, I thought they were fans. So I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, so they brought their own fans. And then I started reading the things,
save
save
Medicare.
Medicaid and liar. And I'm
Yeah,
just like, oh my goodness, this is something else.
I don't know what the heck happened with the Democrats last night. It was embarrassing, but instead of actually clapping, there were a lot of things that were nonpartisan. So
Mm.
that's what surprised me that they didn't get up for that. I'm gonna play a little clip
There were
of
a
this young
few.
man.
There
Go
were a
ahead.
few. No, I was about to say there were a few, very few. When I say few, I'm meaning like 3 or 4 people
Oh, that
who
they clap.
stood up and clapped or clapped in their seats, but it definitely wasn't majority.
That was a small minority. So let's play this young man. If you can't clap or it doesn't touch your heart, like when he hugged the Secret Service guy, and then he hugged the guy who was, um, not inducted, but I guess accepted into
The
the
military
military.
training.
Yeah, Fort. I forgot. It's skipping my mind right now. But anyway, there was those moments. He went and gave him a high five. He
He
hugged the
sure
Secret
did.
Service guy. So
Yeah.
let me play this. Let me play this kid.
I had 13 brain surgeries, and that's how many times my personality has changed. And that's something that you don't hear from a terminally ill child. They had 5 months to live. I'm gonna keep on going until my gas tanks run out. And that's when God calls you home. You never know when God's gonna call you home. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad. I know he's pretty proud of me, and I'm pretty proud of him too. And I'd like to thank President Trump, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
Beautiful, beautiful words. And let's bring in the not so rational reaction of Nicole Wallace.
I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide.
Harris, what happened to humanity?
What happened to Nicole Wallace? She was a Republican. She was the comms director for former President G.W. Bush. Like, she was somebody who could see the nation in a nonpartisan way when it called for that from the White House. She could see Americans. What is she looking at right now? She has joined the liberal side of the chamber last night, who I now can call, I mean, literally, the largest convention of heart donors living on the planet. Living heart donors. What happened to that beating passion inside their chest that said, we want to do great things for America and America?
So what happened to the Democrats? What do you think happened to the Democrats? Because clearly, this is, we can call this an information war. MSNBC has their point of view, Fox has their view. Depending on who you ask or who you're listening to, you're getting two different sides of the coin. You're getting two different sides of the argument. And for me personally, I think the Democrats look crazy. And I'm trying to understand
I think
what.
they lost their focus because the focus when it comes to the federal government should always be the citizens. It should always be the citizens, the taxpayers, the people that reside in this country.
Mhm.
And because there has been so much fraud and abuse under, especially under President Biden, and I'm sure it's happened under other administrations, as Democratic administrations as well, where they like Nancy Pelosi, right? So someone working in the federal government generally doesn't make any more than $200,000 a year.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi is worth $200 million.
Right.
So it's like, where are you getting all of this
Where's that
money
bread coming
from?
from?
So I think the Democratic Party has gotten so used to getting money
Mhm.
and putting it put that bill on the next generation. Put that
Mhm.
bill on, 2 generations down the line. They good for it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Just taking money, taking money.
Yeah.
They forgot the whole purpose of being a servant to the US, to the
Mhm.
United States, is to protect the borders, making sure no invaders come in to destroy or make our country unsafe. Number 2, look out for the citizens. You want to make sure that things are affordable. Make sure our tax dollars are being used towards something that's going to reap the benefits for us. Honestly,
That
reap the
is
benefits for us and for the
so true.
and for businesses that are here in this country.
Right.
I really feel like they've lost the focus of being a civil servant.
Well, you know what? I think that you're so right, because I think that the way government has been ran for a long time, and I mean it's probably even, you can always say Republican government too. But when you look at Trump 47 is a lot different than Trump 45, first of all. So, but when you look at Biden, Trump, back to Obama, then back to Bush, I think what's changed is that it's never been ran. The whole idea of trying to put America first hasn't been run like that in a long time. I don't think in our lifetime. So I think that part, I guess to even have an argument with the Trump administration, the Democrats are basically saying that they're lying and they have some ulterior motive to destroy everything. So I think that, to me, like, before I have an argument with you, we got to agree on what we're arguing about. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like having an argument about, and I don't even think they agree on what they're arguing about with him. They just like, nah, everything, nah, they lying. They like everything. Elon and them are lying. And I'm like, sure, there are a lot of American people who take that line of thought because they just don't like Donald Trump and everything that's associated with him. But I think there's a lot of Americans who are just like, So they've opened up the conversation, like you said, government spending, immigration, and questioning, like, yo, is the government really spending the money, the tax money that's brought in for our benefit? To your point, like, I think I've never seen that conversation really come to the forefront the way it is now. To at least have a conversation about it, and then we can agree or disagree about it. So,
And then I think the other thing is that I feel like the Democratic Party they have a lot to complain about. They have a lot to complain about, but offer no solutions whatsoever. And I feel like it's been that way for quite some time. Or the solutions don't really address the problem. It's just kind of like they're banking on hope and they're banking on people being
right.
fearful enough to let, okay, then y'all do what y'all need to do, because we're scared, so they bank on people's fears and bank on people's emotions, but really offer no real solutions.
Oh,
Really offer no real solutions. And I feel like with this administration, um he's answering he's providing not only what am I the word that I'm looking for, he's being very transparent, ran on transparency, said these are the issues that we're having, because the people have pretty much spoken, pretty much said what the issues were.
Right.
Okay, I hear y'all, these are the issues that we have. And we're going to figure out where all the money is going, because we're $1 trillion in debt. I don't know if it's 1 trillion or how many trillions we are in debt. We are in debt. So, and we're on the verge of bankruptcy. Honestly, you can't bank on the future to pay today's debts.
Yeah,
You know
you
what I'm
can't keep
saying?
doing it like
You
that. You're
can't
absolutely
keep
right.
doing like that. You got to figure out how to handle the debt without making the people suffer. So I really appreciate the transparency that's happening. Everything is kind of being exposed, like where our tax money is going. And I really don't understand why. And for the gentleman in the Pentagon who got fired, was he part of the military? Wasn't he part of the military? Turns out he failed 5 audits.
Okay.
Failed 5 audits. So it's like
I mean, a
they
lot of
fail the audits, but they still stay in the position. They still getting money. It's just like, no, people need to be fired, okay, for not doing their jobs. And then we need to investigate where the money is going. If there's fraud, waste, and abuse, that's what we're trying to figure out. Let the people know this is what we're finding, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it all. Let me know what's happening to our money, and
Well,
then obviously bring some solutions to our problems.
well, I agree. I think that it's weird because that just makes common sense.
Mhm.
Everything you just said is like common sense,
Mhm.
and it's like, I do agree. I think the reason why people are failing these audits is because the government is clunky, it's big and clunky,
Mhm.
and it's bloated. And I'm here for it too. I really don't understand the kicking and screaming as far as actually auditing the government,
Mhm.
because that's common sense. But I do understand there are a lot of people two things the Democrats are doing to me. Two things. One, this is what I honestly believe. I think deep down inside, they're like, he's really getting to some things, and if he solves something, it's going to make us look horrible. Because how do we run in 2028? That's what I think. He's doing some stuff that a lot of them didn't have the
That's
balls
just
to
not
do.
my problem.
Look,
It's just problem.
even if you fail though, even if you fail, even if he fails, he had the balls to go and really try to do drastic different things
Try to do
in the
something.
government,
Yeah.
which the Democrats are scared to do. So back to your point, yes, what they do is they play on emotion, which is starting to be, it's making them look crazy.
Yeah.
Like I'm almost embarrassed that I ever was a Democrat, quote unquote, or voted for Democrat because, but again, it's not the same party.
Not the same party,
So
right?
they've turned it into emotion, and complaining and complaining. So it's kind of like if you don't have any solutions, hating or this vitriol for everything Donald Trump is a bad strategy going forward. Because I think American
Yeah.
people are like most, like they said yesterday, 76 or 78% of people thought that the speech was positive.
Mm-hmm.
It made them feel proud. It made them feel patriotic, and it's an interesting it's an interesting thing to like for Rachel Maddow to be like, well, this young kid with cancer. Well, it's interesting that I'm paraphrasing, but she said something about, yeah, he had cancer and he had these brain surgeries and he survived it, but it's not like Donald Trump had anything to do with it. Of course, no one said that Donald Trump saved him
And that Donald Trump was using him as a prop.
as a prop. He just did a kind gesture. So it was how could you find some evil about a kind gesture to give this kid an honorary Secret Service status is it's like, wow. So
Yeah, they are. It sounds like they're reaching. They're reaching a lot for nothing. There's nothing there to reach for. The only thing that you can, I don't even know. There's nothing to reach for. There's nothing to grab there. There's no way that you can change the narrative because what's being presented in front of us is reality and it is the truth.
mm,
I don't know where the denial is coming from or how you can see it any other way unless you are just Trump deranged.
well, this is what I'm starting to believe. And this is what I think the Democrats have turned into. I think that they're turning into, to me, where they care more about politics than they care about the actual country.
Mm.
That's what I'm starting to believe. Do they really care about the country? Because what I'm seeing, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, a lot of these Dems, they are on a tour right now. They're, as one content creator put it, they're becoming they're becoming content creators.
Hmm.
A lot of the Democrats, they're going around and they're actually just creating content.
Hmm.
They're going around, they're on the Breakfast Club, they're on this, they're on that, and they're all spreading, oh, Trump and Elon, they're lying, I don't know what y'all seeing, and they lying and they lying and they lying, and
It's not helping.
it's not helping. So, and we went through, we're going to get into the hearing on sanctuary cities. I want to play that because you know the biggest thing that, and we talked about it many times, the biggest thing the Democrats did, i.e. Kamala Harris, was to ignore the immigration question, to act like this was not as big as what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That to me was the biggest mistake
Mm-hmm.
because it's clearly an elephant, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like they walked around the elephant and what
And
elephant?
pretended like it wasn't
Ain't no
there.
elephant. What elephant? Ain't no elephant. What?
I don't know what y'all talking
Talking
about.
about? These are just people who want to come
Would
into the
I change
country.
anything?
No,
No,
wouldn't change
I
anything.
wouldn't change anything.
And this is crazy. This is just pure lunacy. And you notice right now. Now remember about a month because Trump been in office 40 days, 45 days, not
Yeah,
that long,
45
not even
days, I think.
2 months.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
remember when Tom Homan and they started doing the ICE raids, now everybody started to be like, oh, you know what? They're gonna be running into schools and churches and they're gonna, be toppling businesses and just tackling people and taking people to jail. And remember that? That was about a good month ago, maybe, because that was like only a week into Trump's presidency.
Yeah.
So the whole immigration scare, this is what all the Democrats were doing at that time.
Yeah.
Now, as we get into this place now, I don't hear nothing about immigration now. I don't hear much. They're not talking about immigration much, are they? I don't
No,
see it.
no, they're not.
All the MSNBCs right now, before we even get into the immigration, let's go back about a week because we got to talk about this blackout real quick, right? This
Okay.
blackout. So we just got out of Black History Month, and for the last month of the year. Now I don't know this blackout thing. I don't know if it's a black thing because initially it seemed like it was a black thing. Al Sharpton started it with his buy-in at
Mhm,
Costco. It
mhm,
got
mhm.
everybody gift cards. So that was a while back. And then this economic blackout. We ain't gonna buy from Target, we ain't gonna buy from Walmart, we ain't gonna buy no gas or no food or nothing on Friday the 28th. But we tell everybody, yo, go stock up on the 20th on the 27th and buy a bunch of stuff on the
The day
27th.
before, go ahead and get everything that you need so that you can join us in this blackout on the 28th.
So
Does that
you
make any sense?
so you got a store. Faith got a store. And I say, you know what? I ain't shopping with Faith on the 28th. But I'm gonna come in on the 27th and I'm gonna stock up in your store, not shop on that Friday, and then I'll come back on that Saturday. Guess what you say? All right, cool. No problem.
Yeah, no problem.
Good.
Thank you for your business.
Thank you for your extra business Thursday and your no business Friday, and then you go back to the business on Saturday. Thank you. You've really shown me your power. I'm really scared about everything you have to do. Yeah, thank you, thank you. So, look, let's not be nice about it. The economic blackout was an emotional exercise. It was stupid. Let's keep it funky. It's stupid.
Pure emotion.
Now, they tried to initially, again, I don't know where the message is because it's all over the place. It was supposed to be a black thing, it seemed like, and then it turned into the geez, what was the name of that? It was the that's skipping my mind too. It's something union. This is a white gentleman who has I'll get it. But anyway,
Okay.
there was a whole team of a whole nother movement that's not a black thing. It's about sticking it to the corporations to let the corporations know that we're tired of corporate greed. So you got two different narratives out there. You have the larger narrative that isn't color based, that's about sticking it to the corporations, Nestle and
On the same
Walmart.
day? It was the same day as the blackout? Yeah, I
It
think it
was
was
it
all
was
in the
it was
same
the same
day.
day, but it depends on who you're talking to. Some people it's like we're sticking it to the corporations,
Okay.
and I guess they all intersect the same because it's all supposed to be because of DEI pullback. But the messaging is so wild, and we gotta link this all to the Democratic Party because the DEI conversation, we covered this already, how
Mhm.
crazy it is. So
Mhm.
of course it doesn't specifically help black people. It's more for white women. We already
Mhm.
know that.
Mhm.
Cool. So, but my point is why people were doing it when you would see on Facebook and everywhere else. Some people are doing it because they feel like for the black community, we're going to show them how powerful we are. And then the greater community outside of the black community was like, we're going to show the corporations.
Mhm.
So it's another extension
I'm
of,
pretty sure everybody's back to their regular routines of purchasing.
I'm pretty sure too.
One day is not
One day ain't gonna do it.
it's not going to do it.
It's not gonna do it.
Even the next blackout, when is that, in April?
It's supposed to be March 28th, if I'm not mistaken. But I
That ain't
don't
going to
know.
do it. That's not going to do it either.
Well, I don't know. The thing about the next one, I don't know if again the narratives are different because some people think this is a black American thing about
Mhm.
black purchasing power, and then again you have a larger group of people that are not color based who are also so it's all getting diluted. It doesn't have a purpose. And as far as the black community coming out of Black History Month, at the end of the day, if you really want to start to use our power financially, it's really about doing things every day. And it's not the corporations. There's nothing's going to change with the corporations. And if DEI doesn't benefit us specifically, this is emotional exercise,
Mhm.
right? So anyway, that's what's going on with that.
That's the spiel.
That's the spiel. So let's get into immigration. So many people, like I said, that was the elephant that they dodged. So I want to get into this because, Byron. Donald, and then also this rep, what's his name? Jim Jordan. So they was grilling the hell out of it was grilling the hell out of your boy Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago. Also grilling Eric Adams, and also grilling what's her name? I think her name is
Mr. Johnson knows how to wiggle.
oh
He, he knows
I
how,
think
or weave. Maybe it's weave. He just knows how to. He knows how to weave. When I hear him talking in public, I'm like, wow, this guy's good. I'm happy they got him here, though. Yeah.
he has a 7% approval rating in Chicago. 7%. 93%.
I don't know why he just didn't step down.
They were dialing it up on him. They were dialing it up on Denver's mayor and Boston's mayor, Michelle Wu. Let's play this real quick. This made me feel good. You know why this clip made me feel good? Because I argue with some people who said that immigration is, one, not a problem, and two, that immigration doesn't cost the taxpayers any money. So forget what I got to say. Let's take a look at how much money the actual mayors from these sanctuary cities said that they spent of taxpayer dollars. Let's listen to what they had to say.
Good.
Let's see. So this is
I
Byron.
didn't see this conference
Oh man,
or this hearing.
this thing.
This thing was like 6
This is my third term on the Oversight Committee. We've been talking about illegal immigration and oversight the entire time. I remember we had a group of this committee that went down to the El Paso section of the border. This was back in February, March of 2021. And during that time period, we were at one of the holding centers, and there were these buses that were coming to the detention facility, and they were picking up 30 kids, 50 kids at random, walking out of the facility. And when I went over to question the bus driver that was transporting these kids, border agents told me, as a member of Congress, that you're not allowed to question the bus driver. And of course, people knowing me, I didn't take no for an answer. And I repeated the question. And I was told that this bus of children was leaving El Paso and going to San Diego. And so what was occurring under the Biden administration is that they were busing unaccompanied minors all across the United States for one reason and one reason only. And that was because they did not want the press to see the pictures of kids in cages. They did not want to see our borders being overrun. They wanted to disperse that problem all through the United States. That is the reckless history of illegal immigration under Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. Mayor Johnston of Denver, you lamented earlier that there were 10 to 11 buses coming per day to your city. Did you ever talk to Joe Biden about why this was happening to your community?
Thank you, Congressman. I both reached out to Governor Abbott from Texas. He didn't respond, and I did.
Why would you reach out to Governor Abbott of Texas when it is Joe Biden, the former commander-in-chief, that opened up our borders? Why didn't you talk to him?
Well, our buses directly were being sent from Governor Abbott in Texas. So that was why we reached out to say, we're happy to collaborate on a coordinated entry system. We understand no one state or no one city should bear the entire brunt of this, but let's collaborate. But I did.
So I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to my next point. Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis, when they started moving illegal aliens out of their states who were bearing the brunt of what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were doing, and they've sent them to Denver, they sent them to Chicago, they sent them to New York, they sent them to Martha's Vineyard. The reason why they did that is because you four could hide behind the realities of illegal immigration on border towns all through our country and on cities and states who did not want to see illegal immigration, but did not have the political representation to go to the White House. And only when it showed up on your doorstep did you get upset. Mayor Johnston, coming back to you, how much did your city spend on illegal immigration? Do you have a round number?
Over the last couple of years on all newcomers, whatever their status was, it's around 79 million since 2022.
79 million. Mayor Johnson, Chicago, how much is this?
Hold on, let me stop there. I just want to make sure we stick on that. So a couple of things with Byron Donald. So he did talk about what he's saying is that he's accusing them of dispersing a lot of the illegal immigrants coming over the El Paso border, to disperse them out to different places so the press wouldn't see how many are overrunning the border. So that's an interesting thing. I don't know that for a fact, but it is something interesting that he said he witnessed. So dispersing them out allows for people not to see how many people are coming in. Because remember, you also have this argument where now people aren't arguing it now, but remember, people were saying that there's not that many coming in. There's only 8 million or 10 million. Then you heard 20 million, 15 million. So there were a lot of people coming in, obviously. We know that now. So, but also when he asked this is the governor of Denver, he said $793 million spent on illegal migrants. Now he's going to ask Brandon Johnson. Let's listen to Brandon Johnson as he as you what do you say, Bob? He bobs and weaves pretty well, right?
He tries.
How much has the city of Chicago spent on illegal immigration?
If you're referring to the 2022 up to 2024 of the buses coming from Texas, roughly the same percentage of the state of Texas, about 1% of our overall budget.
What is that? Because we don't have the city's budget in front of me. Numbers.
It's 1%. And if you want the actual calculation, we can make sure someone.
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you.
It's 1% of the overall budget over the last 4 years.
That's why you were failing.
So he don't want to answer the question. Well, how he knows he has a number, but he don't want to answer it.
Yeah, that's what it is. He definitely knows. He's the mayor.
What is Chicago's operating budget? So Chicago's operating budget, it looks like it is corporate fund. Looks like it's total $18 billion. So $18.7 billion as of 2024. Let's see, from 2020. So even if we go on the $18 billion, let me see. So Denver, he said $793 million, right? So if Brandon Johnson, if it's 18 billion.
He was saying his was almost the same as Denver's.
Well, what he was saying,
1%.
he's saying that his is a similar percentage, but not the dollar amount, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's anyway, I digress. We ain't gonna dwell on it, but
I want to know the number.
You want to know the number? What? Okay, so we said 18 billion, right? So this is 18 million here. So let's do 18 billion. 18 billion times 1% is 180 million. So yeah, I guess that is around the same amount actually. Actually the same amount, same percentage. So I don't know why he didn't say 180 million dollars.
Because he never wants to say the actual. He doesn't want to say the actual number. That's a lot.
But he's out now. Look, Brandon Johnson.
1% sounds a lot less than 180 million.
That's true. That's true. Now, Brandon Johnson been getting cooked in Chicago by his constituents. 7% approval rating. Yeah, that's almost you need to step down. So, so 180 million. Yeah, he didn't want to say it because the constituents been cooking him because they're like, yo, our city, we're going through so much, and they just took out a huge $820 million loan, a bond they had issued because they need money for infrastructure. So they are borrowing essentially by issuing a bond worth $820 million over the next. It is supposed to be over the next 30 years that they pay it down. By the time they pay it down, it's going to cost them $2 billion. So if you look at $180 million, right, that could have offset some of the issues they're having now from the money they're borrowing. So that's the whole point. That's why 7% approval rating. But he don't want to say it. Let's go over to the next one.
Which is the same number that was sent from us
from the city of New York actually spent on
Texas.
illegal immigration? Mayor Johnson, I already asked you, you don't have a hard number. And if you don't have a hard number, you're not running your city well. Mayor Adams, how much did the city of New York actually spend on illegal immigration?
6.9 billion of taxpayers.
$6.9 billion.
Now, Eric Adams, you notice how he didn't have a problem saying the figure. And he added of taxpayer money.
I didn't hear that. He said that?
Let's play it again. And there's a reason why Eric Adams is at a space now where he ain't worried about saying what he need to say because he realized it's an issue.
You spend on illegal immigration?
6.9 billion of taxpayers.
$6.9 billion.
So let's take that in for a minute. In New York, now, people who said, well, illegal immigration is not a problem. It doesn't cost the taxpayer money. It's not me, but Eric Adams just said of New York, mayor of New York, it cost them, they spent 6.9 billion, not million, 6.9 B on illegal immigration. Right? So when we sit back and we say, well, the Trump administration is lying and they hate immigrants and they are anti-immigration, when we say all that, and then the administration says no, we can't afford for people just to come in, not just the crime, right? And not just the fact that people are breaking the law by just coming into the country. It actually costs taxpayer money. So when you look at New York,
To house them, to feed them, to educate them, to give them hospital or medical services, all of that stuff costs money.
all of it costs money.
Yeah.
And when you look at towns like New York has so many problems, Chicago has so many problems. When you look at the citizens who live here already, that's where you say to yourself, okay, what could that money have been spent to do? $6.9 billion.
Of taxpayer money on a problem that was fostered on the American people. Mayor Wu, in the city of Boston, how much did you spend?
We don't ask about immigration status and delivering city
You don't
services,
ask
so
about
we
how
don't
much
have
money
that
the city of Boston has spent on illegal immigration?
We
Are
don't
you out of your
distinguish
mind?
between immigration status.
Do you
as
manage
part
your
of our
budget
city
or
policy.
not, Mayor Wu?
That is how we keep our
Mayor
city
Wu,
safe.
do you manage
We
your
have
budget
the
or not?
numbers to prove it. I manage my budget. I have a AAA bond rating dating back 10 years.
So to the
city
city of Boston,
budget.
just understand that your mayor does not care how much of your resources she has spent on people who are not citizens
The city
of
of Boston
the city of
is
Boston.
sick of having
I'm
people
reclaiming my
outside
time.
Boston
Mr.
telling
Beer,
us what
Mr.
we
Beer, I
need.
have a question for you because I understand Cato's perspective when it comes to illegal immigration. I understand that the Cato Institute for a long time has had a standard of actually having open immigration into the United States. Generally speaking, I don't want to get into specifics.
We support legal immigration. We want immigration to be legal.
Let me ask you this question, because one of the great libertarians of the modern era, Milton Friedman, famously said, you can either have open borders or a welfare state, but you have to choose. Mr. Beer, what do you choose?
Milton Friedman said he wanted to allow illegal immigration to continue. I disagree with Milton Friedman's position on that. We should have legal immigration and build a wall around the welfare state, not around the country. That's in the best interest of taxpayers.
And I would argue that under the current system where you have sanctuary cities popping up, it is not possible to build that wall. So America has to choose. Mr. Beer, you're done. America has to choose between securing our nation or protecting the taxpayer. I choose secure the nation. I yield back.
So, that was such a great clip to me because he basically cooked all three of those mayors. And, the only person who you see the demeanor, the difference between Eric Adams, New York's mayor, and versus Brandon Johnson and Denver's mayor. There's a difference there. Eric Adams, to me, Eric Adams is like, I wouldn't call him a closet Republican because it's not about the party so much, but I think Eric Adams has just reached a level of common sense.
I was just about to say that. That just is common sense. You're running the city and you see how much it's costing the taxpayer to house, and like I said, everything else with illegal immigrants, and it's just it's making the city worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as safety, as far as being able to utilize that money for maybe improving the subway system,
There you
so
go.
that they're not taxing the residents that live there, or adding another toll,
Congestion
the
price.
congestion price, to make up for that deficit.
Yeah.
How about you not pay for the illegal immigration situation?
How much did they spend? 6.9 billion in New York.
$1 billion. Man, they could have fixed. They put train station, a subway station.
I don't know how much the subway station project
Either, but they
is.
could have made a bill.
I don't know how much the congestion pricing, what they were trying to raise from congestion pricing, but I can look that up later. But let's just say, I would have to imagine that 6.9 billion could cover.
It could cover some.
And
people ain't feeling safe on the train, all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So they could have improved safety. They could have improved the turn, so people are making sure that people are paying and not jumping the turn table. It's not a turntable.
Turntable. That's what too. What
is
the
it?
Turnstile.
What is
It's called a turnstile.
Oh, it's called a turnstile. Okay, see how much I go to the city.
Hey, we suburban folks, but cheering now. We don't be on the train every day like that no more. We be in the car. I ain't been on the subway in a long time. I like my car. I like the comfort of my car. But But no, the people, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that money, this is the world we're in now, where I think that Americans are starting to look at the money that's being spent elsewhere
Mm-hmm.
and saying, okay, what could have done here? And now, again, when you look at Trump, he's going to be one of the first presidents, in my opinion, that has opened up the America First conversation. And we're living in a world. It's interesting because people are angry and arguing against things that are supposed to be to their benefit. You know what I'm saying? So last night, what else did he talk about? He talked about no taxes on the tips,
Yep.
no taxes on overtime,
Mm-hmm.
no taxes on Social Security payments.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how could you be mad at that?
That's all good. I will be standing up over there on the right.
They was just saying that. They was
Not
just
the
claiming
right
that
Republican, but
right,
on the right side of
right side of
Trump.
the room.
Yeah,
Right.
the right side of the room.
Yeah, because he was like, I'm not talking about the right. I don't mean the right, but I mean the people to my right.
The people to my right.
He said to make sure he listen.
That's nothing but good news. That's great news. Like, why are you not clapping for that? Trump hatred.
Well, and they're like, they're sitting up here talking about the Social Security, they're talking about there's supposed to be cuts for that and all that. And when you look at him saying, okay, I'm not going to cut, excuse me, when you look at him saying I'm not going to tax these things, that's a positive thing for elders who are getting Social Security. So at the end of the day, we got to look at this and say to ourselves, if we have an administration who is trying to do something with America first in mind,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take time, but there are steps you have to start doing.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the tariffs. I know people hate the tariffs, but when you start to step back and look at the world, you got to say to yourself, how do you start to look at your country and do what's best for your country?
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because Americans aren't used to that.
Mm-hmm.
We think that our job is to take care of everybody, and our job is to take care of everybody's cause.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody is starving or struggling in the world, it's America's fault. And American taxpayers should think about themselves last. But we still want everything. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just gotten to that point, man. So I don't know. I don't know where things are going with this, but anyway, that's what happened last night. Um, so what do you think? Where do you think we're going next? What do you think the next 4 years is going to look like?
I mean, I think the next 4 years from the other side is still going to be complaining, saying that this isn't right, some kind of unfair, unjust situation when it comes to anything that this administration does for the country. I think it's just going to be, they're just going to be up in arms about everything. Like he said last night, there's nothing that he can do. It could be he could save somebody's life, or find a cure to something, and it saves millions of lives. But the other side is always going to have something negative to say about it. And there's really nothing that can be done for them to see it any other way. I think they're always going to have that negative viewpoint regardless of what good it's doing for the country and its citizens. So I expect them to do what they are already doing for the next 4 years.
What's horrible about that? I'll say this. What's horrible about that is that
unfortunately,
when Barack Obama when he was inaugurated and got in, there was some on the Republican side who were very disrespectful early on. Remember, you liar! They called him a liar one time when he was doing his presidential address, I believe, and people got on them, and regardless, when you can disagree, that's going to happen between parties, but when you have a president, you should want the president to win. And I feel like the worst thing about what the Democrats are doing, they really don't seem like they want Donald Trump to win. I feel like they want they want everything to fail, which means that they want the country to fail. And just because he's not doing everything that you may want to do or you disagree, like you said earlier, the goal is to come up with alternative ideas
And
and try to work
solutions.
together and say, okay, I don't like this, but how about we do it like this or that?
Mhm.
And the vitriol so far doesn't really match what's being done. So as the Democrats, to me, they're playing. To me, they are rolling the dice and they're betting. Not even rolling the dice. They are betting everything. They're betting everything that he's going to be wrong.
What they're doing is they're at a table sitting down writing, okay, what else can we talk about? What's why do we not like this? What else can we talk about? And just throwing things to the wall and seeing what sticks. There's
Well,
no rhyme or reason. There's never a rhyme or reason to why they think this way, and then they offer no alternative solutions. It's
right.
just complaining.
Well, they're playing their hand where they're betting everything, and I think they're betting that everything that Doge is finding is going to be
It's
wrong.
going to be
They're
wrong.
betting that the job loss is going to be catastrophic.
Everything is going to be wrong.
And here's the problem. The problem is that if half of what this administration does works out and goes in a positive direction, like they want to balance the budget. If they start to get closer to balancing the budget, if they start to slim down the government and people realize, oh, we did have a bloated government. We do need to actually trim it down and get cut. We don't need to be a fat government. We need to get cut.
I think
Get
when
our
people
muscle.
start seeing the money in their pockets soon, hopefully that changes the tone a little bit.
Well,
because money in our pockets is coming soon.
well, here's the thing.
Not for me. That came from Trump.
I think that that's possible, and I like that sentiment. If they give out, $5,000, what we call a dividend from the savings, that'd be great. We'll take it all day. But my point on that is that I don't know if we'll see everything in our pocket. It's just my personal point of view. I think that we have to be able to see a different direction as far as the country, because we can't. Some things we can. Go ahead.
Oh, what I was saying was not maybe physical money in our pockets, but the price of gas, the price of food, interest rates on housing, like those types of saving money in our
No, I
pocket.
agree with that.
But also, I
I agree
think
with that.
the stipend, or not the stipend, but the money that we may get back
That dividend, yeah.
from the savings that they
No, I
found.
I agree with all of that. I think all of those things are positive, and I was including that with money in our pockets. But I think that the direction of the country, if we can be aware of what we're actually in and stop pretending, because I feel like we've been pretending that
Like everything's okay,
everything's
nothing's a
okay,
problem,
and
we're great.
yeah, and we're pretending that for instance, even with DEI, we're
Mhm.
having this long conversation about DEI, but no one's talking about AI. Forget DEI, think about AI, because
Yeah.
AI is coming. AI is going to take hundreds of millions, or not hundreds of millions, but maybe hundreds of thousands of jobs, at least initially, right? Maybe hundreds of millions of jobs, maybe. But AI is something to be talking about. We're not even talking about that. So the idea of America first and trying to forge a new direction for America is definitely needed. That
Yeah.
I think people have to agree on, Democrat and Republican, and stop pretending that, oh, we were already doing great. And I heard earlier, and again, if you listen to different news stations, they all saying something different. So one, I probably MSNBC saying, oh, Joe Biden left Donald Trump with one of the best economies ever. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You can't sell that to people no more. You can't sell that to people. So trying to be emotional and trying to play to our emotions, I don't think that's working anymore.
No, it's
And
not.
you know,
Because 70 cent, like you said, 76% of the people really like what Donald Trump had to say in front of Congress.
facts.
And they agree with the way he's running the country right now.
Yeah,
Over 50%
yeah.
agree with how he's running the country right now. So if you're not going to hear it in your local news, I mean, just look at the stats yourself.
Well, and you got to understand that, nothing is going to happen overnight. The reason why gas is up, the reason why inflation is high, the reason why home prices are high, those are all complicated issues, but those aren't issues that any president is going to come in and fix overnight. However, we can look at the fact we said, okay, illegal immigration is down 99%,
Yeah.
right? That's something and that was the best line of the night when he said we didn't need a new bill, because Kamala went through the campaign and said we need to work on a new bill.
Bipartisan
We need to
bill.
work on a new because they asked her, well, what are you going to do? The most she ever said was that
Congress won't pass a bipartisan
we're
bill.
gonna have to do
You
a
gotta
new.
talk to Congress.
Well, she's like, we're gonna have to do a new bill,
Yeah,
and she would have got in, and we would have been waiting for a new bill.
waiting for a new bill to be passed.
God knows when. And it turns out, like you said, they just needed a new president to sign an executive order.
Executive order is all you
Right.
needed.
So some things could be solved right away, and I think that in the long run, if people are patient enough to accept a new direction,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe they won't be as mad, because Americans, we're impatient. We think everything's supposed to happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But there are some things in time that they're not solved, we'll be in big trouble. So just one last thing.
Yeah.
Democrats look crazy too, because they also rejected the bill to not have biological men play sports with biological women. Now, this is something that I think most of America agrees with, not having biological men play with biological women. So I don't know why I don't know why they
And
were
this
rejected.
is where the women in the pink suits come in.
Oh, you did tell me to, yeah. Who were the women in the pink suits?
They are there to support women,
Mhm.
women's rights, women. They're there to support women,
They
and
were sitting with the Dems, or they were
sitting with the Dems.
Wait, whoa. So the women in the pink were
Mm-hmm.
there to support women's rights.
Mm-hmm.
So why?
Support women, supports women, support women's rights. So it's just like that's what I don't get. It's hypocrisy. It's like you're on the dim side and you're like, yes, I support women's rights, and yeah, I'm here in pink and I'm all for the women.
Mhm.
But yet the Democrats not one Democrat voted yes to ban transgender women out of women's sports. Not one Democrat voted to abolish that.
I don't understand that, because when again, like, I don't hate anybody. God, love and speed to everybody, every group.
Yeah, be what you want to be, but
I mean, I have a daughter.
men
We have a daughter,
in women's sports
and
is
if
just
my
not
daughter is
okay.
playing, I don't think anybody who's born a biological man should be playing with her. You actually had the woman there who was
Oh
who got hit
yeah.
by the volleyball
Yep.
because there
And
was
suffered permanent damage. She has some partial paralysis or some partial paralysis, I think, on the right side of her face.
lost some of her vision too in that eye, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
I mean, this is the thing that's tied to the Democratic Party. Now, I don't understand these things where, when I ask most people, regardless to whatever party they like, and I say, well, do you believe that biological men should play sports with women? Most people will say no, so this is what it's become. But I don't know. I just think all of this is interesting. I'm here for it, like you said, and most of these things are common sense things, and I think that it's going to be a long road for the Democrats, because they're going to have to convince American people that Donald Trump is just crazy. But
The American people are not falling for it. I mean, it's very clear that the American people are not falling for it. So no matter what the Dems try to throw at the wall and see what sticks, the American people are not falling for it if it's not the truth, and if it's not honest. If it doesn't fit the narrative, then they're not falling for it.
I agree. Or people, you have some people who voted for him. Like, there was a guy who worked for the IRS, and I talked about this before. He worked for the IRS. He voted for Donald Trump, and then he lost his job, and then he's like, oh, talking shit. But I'm like, listen, bro, you only worked for the IRS for 6 months.
Yeah.
You only worked 6 months. You wasn't even, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
go find another job. I'm not saying it's not dramatic to lose your job, but what it's about, at the end of the day. And it doesn't matter. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I've worked places where they downsize, cut things.
Yep.
Nobody's gonna guarantee you a job. But if you voted for the ideals and the things that you thought needed to be done, don't cry now because you was affected. We all get hit and affected one way or another. But if you're gonna stand on something, you gotta stand on it. That's my opinion. You can't be like, oh no, now because I wanted my job, because I lost my job, now I'm regretting my vote. That's corny.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be an interesting time. But anyway, any last thoughts about this
Ooh,
whole situation?
last thoughts. Just, hang tight, enjoy the ride, and try not to stress too much about it. Don't stress about it. Don't say I'm okay, I'm getting out of this country. Like some people are saying, I'm getting out of this country. You need to get your passport today because things are going downhill. I would say just sit tight, be patient, and just wait it out.
A lot of people be like, "What? Wait it out."
Yeah, just
Yeah,
wait it out. It's
that's
only 4 years, y'all.
that's true.
It's
But
it. It's only 4 years.
but you know what? I'm glad you said that because it is only 4 years. But I do think that again, I would say the same thing that you said. Relax, but also take a step back and ask yourself, what do you think America should be going forward? What do you feel? How do you think things should be?
Mm.
Because do you think it's weird because Americans, a lot of Americans, I'm talking about the ones who are up in arms and feeling emotional right now. If you ask them, should America put America first? I think that there is a conflict within a lot of people. The
Mm.
people who kind of understand or agree with this administration say, you know what? Okay, America should be first. All right, if that's what you feel like should be done, I'm gonna trust you. Because at the end of the day, like I don't know every single thing that the government should do. I'm nobody getting on these internet streets or even on the news streets.
Mm-hmm.
The reporters on actual legacy news. Nobody knows exactly what should be done. None of us do. We can
Mm-hmm.
pretend like we do. We
Mm-hmm.
can spit out facts and pretend like, oh, I know this, I know that, and
Mm-hmm.
50% of this, but you don't really know what should be done. You're just gonna have to really, that's why we elect people in office, and you're gonna have to listen to the information they give you, ask you if it makes sense, and then you're gonna have to trust that it needs to be done based on what? At least for me, their objective. So if the
Mm-hmm.
objective is America first, you got to decide if you agree with that first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of people, they have a conflict. They're apologizing to Zelensky, feeling like Zelensky was done wrong, right? I saw many Democrats. Jasmine Crockett talked about I think she apologized to Zelensky because she was embarrassed about how Trump and Vance talked to him. But then I said, well, take your melanated self over to Ukraine and see how much they like you over there.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
people be so willing to be like, oh, I'm gonna go somewhere else, and you apologizing for everybody else and not thinking about your own country. So there's a lot of people who are conflicted who don't really know. They kind of will say that they're for America, but then at the same time they have a problem just saying, okay, what's actually America first about? Do they really
Mm-hmm.
feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
For me, it wasn't initially. It was about safety. I just wanted them to shut the borders. It was just like too much going on in these cities, and a lot of killings, all the bad stuff, So I was just like, do something with immigration. I'll be happy with that. Do something with immigration. Let's, and I'm all for like looking into all aspects of the government and seeing where there's waste and there's fraud. I'm all for that as well. So I wasn't necessarily thinking America first. It was like just bits and pieces of what he was saying. Prior to him becoming a president, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like the direction in which we need to go because our borders are wide open. Inflation is extremely high, and I know closing down the border will help with the inflation and stop us wasting money. And then why not do an audit of the government to see where there's waste, fraud, and abuse? That sounds good to me too.
Yeah.
But now that you put it and he's always said it, America first, make America great again. It's not just a slogan. It actually means something, and there's action behind those words, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that yeah, it's interesting you said that too because that's just everyday people talk where you're just like, okay, these are some issues that he touched on for you. And you're like, oh, if you can just do that, I'll appreciate it. You're not asking for the world. The America First thing for me, and it's interesting because again, it's almost like people feel guilty to feel that way. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, I could say, okay, I'm a Ghanaian, but my parents are from Ghana. That's our home country, right? But at the end of the day, I was born here. Our kids are here. We're raising our kids here. Our kids will probably be here. So it's like I don't think there's nothing. People have a weird thing about just being like America, make America great again, and that whole conversation got discombobulated because it got and I understandably so it got associated with white America, right? But at the end of the day, America has a history that we can't change. America's history is what it is. But we're in a time now where, like we said, we live here, we pay taxes here, we own property here, we ain't going nowhere. This is our country too. So you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so there's nothing wrong with just being like, yo, I'm an American and America first makes sense. So, but there's too many messages telling people that, okay, if you say America first, it's anti you or anti
It's anti
minority.
you, and you're putting more money in the one percenters. You're giving more money to the one percenters and racism and
All these different narratives that aren't about that.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, my thing about America First, I agree with you. I was looking at these particular issues, like you said, the economy, immigration, and just looking at the world stage and dealing with domestic and international stuff. But the America First thing came into play because you start looking at the fact, I start looking at industries like the auto industry. I start looking at the fact that Timu, you know what I'm saying? I ain't mad at Timu, but things used to be made here. I don't know how that's going to change in the future. We're not going to go back to the 70s or the 60s. I'm not expecting it to from a manufacturing standpoint, but we do have to pay attention to keep some level of business here and some level of manufacturing here, some level to make sure it doesn't all just wither away. We can agree. And long before Trump, they've been having this conversation since George Bush 2 was in office. We've been having this conversation
And that
since
keeps
early
us from
2000s.
that saves us money too, keeps us from paying tariffs.
Right. But
If
and
we
and
have
and it and
business
it
and we
and it
start
and it
building
keeps your
things here
country
viable.
it keeps your country exactly keeps your country viable. So this is every country. Tariffs, like you said, tariffs protect the country, so you make sure that the people who are making stuff in America can do business. So there's a balancing act there, and there's something to be paid attention to there that I think that has been not attent people haven't been attentive to it. So
Yeah.
I think
It's a
this
global
administration,
economy.
yes.
Yeah.
So I think this administration cares about that. So I'm like, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like you said, they do try to make, oh, it's just about the one percenters and no, it's about American companies. We don't know what the future is going to be like, but our kids in 20, 30 years and their kids, who knows? America can produce things again.
And you don't know, like most people don't know how much the US is paying in tariffs to other countries too.
Facto.
And from what I've been hearing, we're paying sometimes twice the amount or sometimes three times the amount or sometimes even four times the amount of tariffs compared to the other
When
country
they're importing into our
when
country.
they're
Yeah.
importing into our
Yeah.
country. So
Yeah.
it's really about balance at the end of the day and fairness,
Yeah.
because I think this country has been taken advantage of
I'd say so.
from
I'd
other
say so.
countries, from some other countries.
I'd say
And
so, yeah.
I also think that's part of um our country first, yeah, he said country first, right?
And that's why he wants to do the reciprocal
And
tariffs.
that's why he wants to do the reciprocal tariffs. Whatever you charge us in tariffs, we're just going to charge the same amount to make it fair.
And this is the internal conflict I think a lot of people have. The internal conflict is that if we do America first, it's inherently evil. It's inherently evil. It's inherent. It's we I understand why to us from a psychological sense, from America's history and colonialism and white superiority and all these things people put in their head. But ultimately, again, you gotta remove all that at some point and say, okay, well, you do live in this country, And whatever affects America affects everybody in its borders. That's what it come down to. So you can't escape that. And the whole point of this is the things that we've been able to see, we can't unsee. We can't unsee if they do find this waste and they're able to substantiate it and slim the government down. We can't unsee it. Democrats can't unsee it, which means that when y'all go to run again in 4 years or midterms as well, the American people can't unsee it.
Yep.
The immigration being cut from all what it was down to almost not cutting down 99% down to nothing. You can't unsee it.
Information is out there.
He's working on reducing the fentanyl. If they able to reduce that down and cut fentanyl deaths, you can't unsee it, and you
That's
can't
such
make
a
it.
bad
You can't
epidemic
make it
here.
negative.
Yeah.
Yes,
Such a bad epidemic here.
that fentanyl is way different, way worse than crack.
Way worse.
Way worse than crack.
Oh.
I mean, you could die just on a small doses of that stuff. So
Yes.
these are real, actual problems,
Real issues
that we actually have to deal with.
Mhm.
And keep in mind, you said it before, Trump is only 4 years, but to me, what they're doing right now, they're at least addressing stuff, and it's going to make a road for Vance to run in 2028 or whoever else they want.
Whoever else wants to run. Yeah.
So, so that's what it is.
Hold on to your seats.
Hold on to your seats. Thanks for tuning in to the Crucial Convo podcast. This is your host, Kojo Efriye, my beautiful wife,
Faith Efriye.
Check her out on
Have Faith Yoga.
Boom. On Instagram. Now, how you spell
on all
so
the
they
socials.
Know, so they know.
Well, we'll put it in the description.
Put it in the description. That's right.
HAVF8TH Yoga.
Booyah, Crucial Combo Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed already, don't consider hitting the subscribe button. Just hit the damn subscribe button. If you have a comment, good or bad or indifferent, feel free to drop it in. Holla at y'all later. Peace.